And 88th Congress, and House Republicans now are on the verge of becoming a total clown show if they're not careful. But despite the cheering and the elation from Democrats and the mob and the media, it's not a dire situation yet.
This will be one of the very few times, there may be some others, that's why I say few times, that you will hear me agree with Hannity, and also to say to you, and yes, I, Nina Turner, am saying this today at the top of the new year of 2023, that Fox News got that absolutely right. This is a clown show indeed. So Republican Kevin McCarthy enters day 2 of his bruising quest to become Speaker of the House. How many of you got out the popcorn? Because this is indeed a show. And with the party's new majority fractured by a revolt among hardline conservatives who oppose his candidacy, and they haven't been shy about letting it be known that they don't like this brother, and that they don't want to see this brother in leadership, and that if he does happen to obtain leadership, they want some concessions, and that without those concessions, they are not budging. So let me dress this up for you. McCarthy weathered 3, now this was yesterday, 3 failed votes for Speaker on Tuesday as about 20, just 20 hardline conservatives blocked his path to the top congressional job and plunged the House into turmoil. It was the first time in 100 years that the House has not elected a speaker on the first day. Thank you, Rutgers, for that reporting. And this news is floating all over media because this is indeed news. 100 years. There's something else we're going through right now that hadn't happened in 100 years, and that is the COVID. It's this pandemic, a pandemic of this magnitude. That's 100 years as well. Let's go on further. But the standoff has raised fears among party members of a longer term rift that could hobble their ability to move forward in unison on economic, energy spending, and immigration priorities in the run-up to the 2024 presidential election. Now this right here is the major point. I want us to rest right there. I want us to let this marinate right there, because this is really what this is all about. It's about them being able to set a play for 2024 and the hell with the American people. Because so far I've heard no mention of the American people, but we're gonna keep on going. So yesterday's session lasted for about 5 hours. For those of you who did not get the opportunity to watch it or either read about what's happening in the United States House of Representatives, in that body called the Congress. So the session lasted for 5 hours and McCarthy failed to garner the votes needed to become speaker. He received 202 votes. He needed, on that final ballot, he needed 212. And this kind of stalemate involving electing a Speaker of the House, as I just said, had not happened for about 100 years. It hadn't happened since 1923. Bold it, underline it, underscored, exclamation point, message in a bottle, baby, on a train. Has not happened since 1923. And if you ask the Democrats how they see this disruption or clown show, depending on how you want to categorize it. You know, some people see this as a disruption, others have called it a clown show. That's what Hannity calls it. I think Hannity is absolutely right on that. They see this as them winning, they being the Democrats. And I don't know how they see this as winning because they actually lost the House of Representatives. But let's go ahead and hear it from the words of some of the folks there. This is Representative Raul Grijalva, Democrat from Arizona. He framed it this way. Republicans have shown their hand and unveiled the clown car caucus with which they expect to govern. Again, that's Representative Grijalva from Arizona. And then the new House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, took a more measured approach by stating the following. It's a sad day for the House of Representatives as an institution. Sad day for democracy. It's a sad day for the American people. Now, it is a sad day for the American people, but not for the reasons that Representative Jeffries is laying out. It is a sad day for the American people because more dysfunction at a deeper level is going to continue to happen in the House of Representatives, and very little, if anything, is going to be done on the behalf of the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class in this country. But that is not what he was calling a sad day, because if in fact he meant that, when the Democrats had full control, they would have done some things, but they did not. So Jeffries, though, however, unlike McCarthy, had nothing to worry about, because the Dem caucus it runs in lockstep. I mean, there were no 20, it wasn't 15, it wasn't 10, it wasn't even 5 people who had the courage or intestinal fortitude enough to push back against Hakeem Jeffries' leadership, because they walk in lockstep and they take great pride in it, which is why they all swole up in the chest. I mean, really swole up in the chest over what is happening with the Republicans. This tweet right here sums up my feelings exactly. I wish this person would get out of my head, but here we are. This is what Shant had to say. It's rather pathetic to watch Democrats and leftists gloating about the fact that the Republican Party seems to still allow for a tiny amount of dissent and debate, while their own party is an absolute, and I mean absolute, Chant, go ahead with it, an absolute authoritarian Borg that demands lockstep allegiance from its members. Let it stay up, don't take it down. I want those of you who are watching the show live, I want you to just read that one more time with me, really. And for those of you who are listening, I am going to read that one more time. It's rather pathetic. Let's underline it, let's underscore it, let's bold it, put an exclamation point, put it in 6 bottles on a train, in a message, in a bottle. It's rather pathetic to watch Democrats and leftists gloating about the fact that the Republican Party seems to still allow for a tiny amount of dissent and debate, while their own party is an absolute authoritarian board that demands lockstep allegiance from his members. Shant got that right. I mean, 2,000% right, because that really is the Democratic Party. Baby, you got to walk all the way lockstep. You got to walk one by one. And if you dissent just a little bit, they come raining down on you, baby. That is what they do. Shant got that exactly right. And guess what? Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries, they got more fire for the progressive side. And I ain't talking about them progressives in Congress, but I'm talking about the freedom fighting type progressives. They got more heat for them than they do for the Republicans. They will come harder at them, or us, I should say, than they will come after the Republicans. Because guess what? They are soulless and spineless too. They don't have any intestinal fortitude either. And that's why Shant got that exactly right. Because the Republic, even though these 20, I probably don't agree with 99.9% of the time, at least they have the courage of their warped conviction to stand up and to fight, and also say, let the chips fall where they may. But we ain't getting none of that on the Democratic side, not for this election with this this appointed, anointed Hakeem Jeffries, because he was picked by the leadership. And everybody went trolloping through the tulips, skip to my Lou, ring around the rosy, pity pat, all of that. Not one dissent on this man at all. But then the Democrats got a nerve, got the pure unadulterated gall. More nerves than a brass A monkey, to quote my grandmama, to talk about the Republicans. As backwards as they may be, Shant got that right, that they are going with the flow with the dissent. Meanwhile, Democrats clamp down on it like an authoritarian. And that's exactly what they do. Or let's take a look at Dan Marin's take on that, shall we? Yeah, let's do that. This is a reporter, Daniel Marins, put it this way. But imagine this were a progressive caucus. Now rest with me right there. Rest right there with me. I imagine that. I'm imagining it. It ain't happened. But imagine this were a progressive caucus. Would a faction of the left currently in Congress be willing to brave the negative PR, etc., to exact concessions from Dem leadership? It's a question. Dan is asking a very important question too. Doubtless no, he got that right. The factional brinkmanship is not analogous on the Dem side, for better or for worse. And guess what, Dan? Sister Senator Nina Turner gonna weigh in, it's for worse. Because what is the use of having a congressional progressive caucus if they are always going to walk lockstep through the tulips, tiptoeing all the way with the mainline corporatist, bought and sold Democrat? Because at least on the progressive side, allegedly on the progressive side, they are fighting for what is just right and good. And I say allegedly because they don't stand up strong enough for my taste and for the taste of so many other folks in the United States of America who believe in those things like Medicare for all, like expanding and protecting that child tax credit that they just let go away. Or how about passing the John Lewis Voting Rights Act or the George Floyd Policing Act, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They did none of those things. And they don't raise the requisite hell or heaven, depending on how you want to look at it, necessary to show the American people that there's a difference between the Congressional Progressive Caucus and the rest of them. I have not seen it. And I got some folks, in that Congress that I kind of respect. But I have not seen it from them. But then folks got nerve to get mad at the 20 for standing up for what they believe in. That's what they doing. Whether you agree with them or not, I don't agree with them on the daggone thing on this, but at least they are standing. Now, the conservative rebellion also ratcheted up frustration among Republicans who said McCarthy's opponents were stalling party plans to push forward with its legislative priorities and to investigate Democratic President Joe Biden and his administration. There it is again. The Republicans are not even talking about standing up for the people. They talking about having investigations for the next 2 years, which we knew that was going to happen. That is why the Democrats should have fought harder to keep control of the House of Representatives. And one way they could have done that is by changing the material conditions of the people in the United States of America who need their material conditions changed. And oh, by the way, exclamation point this too, not spending all their venom and their time coming after progressives. But that's what they do best. They don't do nothing else best.